To be.
What?
Or
Or
we'd
not
rather
to
not.
be.
We'd rather not.
Joe was from his mother untimely ripped. What am I doing?
I don't
A
know.
really
Yorick.
bad British
You're doing
accent.
Yorick.
No, what am I doing?
Oh, I'm sorry. Is this where I'm supposed to do Master of Thespian? Acting!
Welcome to Bonehead.
John Lovitz. Don't you mock John Lovitz? I'll kill you.
I was.
Anyway,
Y'all
Pull my
can't play
finger.
pinochle for a damn.
so I wanted to do it, and I was hoping you would just do that without me having to tell you. Because
No, I'm sorry. I didn't know. It was. I missed my cue.
Benchwarmers, Jonathan Lovitz.
So we have guessed you two people.
Trapped in Paradise is John
Why don't you
Lovitz.
just shut the hell up and go introduce
high
the
school
other
high,
people?
Mom
Mom and Dad saved the
pl-
world.
Yeah.
Oh, you said the wrong word.
I know I did. I said the wrong word when they said, "Do you want to do a podcast?" I went, "Yeah, sure."
Coneheads, John Lovitz.
Oh, forgot that one.
Sometimes I feel I've got.
Get
Can
to know
we
me.
introduce
Get
our
away.
guest?
I don't know. Can you?
Sounds like steam escaping.
Was he McGill's name?
You know
Bob
what? If he
Singleton?
wasn't, he should have been.
She should have been.
Bob Singleton, welcome.
Thank
John
you.
Stith, welcome.
Thank
We've
you.
wanted to have you on the show for a long time, both of you. I've had you in bed, but I wanted to have you on the show. You guys are what?
Humans,
on your show?
mammals.
Oh my God! Would you two help me out instead of showing?
No, I just
Screaming
want
out
to.
John
I want
Lovitz
to see
thing?
how deep you dig yourself
Nah.
before.
Anyway, you guys are actors. Bob, you've directed. You directed several different shows, right?
Mhm.
So with Bonehead, this episode we are doing theater.
The theater.
The theater. Why are we doing theater, gentlemen?
Because of John Lovitz.
No, because we knew two actors.
Ah,
Theater.
Well, it all
Theater.
goes back to John Lovitz. Then.
I was-
How do you figure it all goes back to John Lovitz?
I don't know. Theater stories.
Actually, his best gig was with John Lithgow on SNL, the acting sketch, or the Master Thespian.
There's the one with John Lithgow?
Oh, it's fantastic.
Well,
Oh,
let's
they tried
end the
that
show.
one, right?
Cut. No, I'm
Let's
joking.
just go
I'm joking.
watch him.
Let's go watch it now. In fact,
'Cause
stop
I'm-
what you're doing. YouTube that.
I would say my favorite one is where he's doing the mall Santa. Where he's
Yeah,
like,
that's
"I-
pretty good.
I must be Father Christmas."
Anyway, for Bonehead, we always try to do different things. We always talk about pop culture. And one of the things that we've wanted to do now for almost a year, we talked about it from the very beginning, is doing theater and having some local people who do a lot of theater on the show. You guys do local theater. Tell us something about it. Tell us what shows you've got going on. Tell us how you get involved. Let's go through the whole 9 yards. So, how did you two get into acting? I know we'll start with Bob and move on to John.
Well,
Oh, FYI, really quick. I was just fucking.
yeah, that's what I figured. Well, I mean,
the
I
bigger
guess.
question. The bigger question. You think you're better than me?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
By the way,
What's the category?
It doesn't matter.
I don't want to
Absolutely.
jump to
The answer is
conclusions.
yes.
they're both friends of the Bonehead, and they both were in. They're both in the. This is the second time they've ever met, and they're both in the same movie. You ever thought about that?
No.
It didn't occur to me right then. You're both in.
I'm more over it, aren't I, than in it?
You're actually in it. Have you
In
never
the, in the
watched
credits.
it?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah. Well, you're right before the credits, and at
You
the end
showed
of the
me
credits.
trying to get my whoo, but that it wasn't. My
That was at the end
woo
of
wasn't
the
working
credits.
that
It was
day.
Kind of like Mark Harmon and Polly Perrette.
What the hell is he talking about?
NCIS, she's the most popular female actress on television. The show's been on for like 1 million seasons now, and she just quit the show. I mean, she's popular among the female nerd herd group. She can attest to it. And one of the reasons she left
Haley.
is they had a dispute about a dog. And the speculation is well, the last several seasons, they never did a scene together, even though they're both,
Mark Harmon and her?
yeah.
Oh, that's not unusual, actually. That happens a lot.
Well, up until like 2 or 3 seasons ago, they didn't get along. Or they got along and then they quit getting along. So,
Did
but
you
anyway.
know that was an option? We could do this without us.
Oh
Well,
God.
we
How
did
would-
do.
how would
The
we-
one where you Skyped in that one time was
So
hilarious.
why don't you go to James's and Skype in?
Because I'd have to get a shovel and dig my way into his basement.
Mute. We could hit the mute button.
Yeah.
No,
be
that's great,
hilarious.
Joe. We can't.
So her name's Polly Parrott?
Paulie Perrette, I think. Is that right? Yeah.
Oh.
I got some coffee.
Well, anyway, Bob, how'd you get into acting? Murder
well,
Virgin, go watch it.
well, I guess I think it was it must have been 1976 because I'm pretty sure I was in 4th grade, and the teacher announced we were going to do a show about the Boston Tea Party. So I'm thinking it must have been the bicycle. Oh fuck yeah! I am.
Have you seen the show before, Bob?
No, I haven't.
Really?
I didn't want to have too much
You're in
information.
for a butt hurt treat.
Okay, all right. Well, that's good. That's
Could have
good.
stayed home and tried. I don't
I just
know.
You could have
Water on my crotch.
hung out with your beautiful wife, Allie, and petted your kitty. Keep going. You were in the 4th grade, a priest, somebody touched you. What?
No, I didn't. I wasn't in Catholic school.
Oh, it's unfortunate.
Not on big days, anyway.
Oh.
But so yeah, she announced doing the Boston Tea Party, and she said, okay, who wants? She cast some roles, and the way she did it was, people would pick a number. Like there were 4 people that wanted the lead role, and she looked at me first, said pick a number between 1 and 4, so I picked 4 because it was my favorite number. You have a favorite number, and you have favorite everything at that age. And so I got the role, and the girl that had just gotten cast before me as my character's wife went, ew, I don't want to be married to Bobby Singleton. So she was recast. So I had my first divorce in
Sexism, man.
4th grade.
Star power
And,
from day one.
In the 4th grade, the white man was keeping her down. What is wrong with you?
I didn't do anything. Well, I mean, I probably did, but I mean,
I'm sure.
I was a Singleton.
My favorite number's
You
toe.
should have known. So I went home. I mean, I'd done some, the Thanksgiving things you do where you're the Rock or the Boulder or whatever, shit like that. And I went home and sat down with my mom, learned all the lines. We recorded them the next day. I had them all memorized, and I went in. And I remember thinking, like, at some point in that process, I unless I've just created this in my mind, but I remember thinking at one point, do I need to take my sip of tea after this line or after this line?
Oh, okay.
I remember thinking about it in a way that I don't know. It was the only thing that ever clicked.
So you're building character from the get-go.
Well, I mean, which I know maybe is not completely unnatural kind of thing if you watched enough. I mean, hell, I watched all kinds of TV and stuff, so I just was kind of thinking about it that way. But I mean, it was the first time I think it clicked for me as something that I kind of have because I did learn the lines and they just kind of stuck. It wasn't even that much of an effort. They just kind of stuck, and I wasn't expecting them to. So and I enjoyed it. People liked it, and I knew what I was doing.
Yeah.
I've never had stage fright because you have not the one time was not for an acting thing. It was a thing in college at the theater, but it wasn't for a show. Because I've always thought, okay, you have these lines, you know what you're supposed to do.
Yes.
They're here to see it. They want to enjoy it. Well, shit, that's easy. Life is improv, and I hate improv because you don't know what the hell's going to happen.
Right.
To all our improv fans, sorry.
No, I hate doing it. I don't hate seeing it.
Oh, it's okay.
I suck at it.
It's okay.
We don't have any fans.
We're not big with Second City fans. Keep going.
No, fuck them. There's a reason they're Second City, right?
Feed the tree.
Upright Citizens Brigade.
You
No, but
forward.
that was basically the first. That was the first kind of time where I did a show and where something kind of,
So it was from the 4th grade.
Yeah, and it was just, I guess we just invited the parents in. It wasn't like a school. It wasn't the grades coming in and stuff like that. I think we just did it for a classroom. I don't know.
Oh.
Yeah.
So that's the kind of the first thing that sticks out for me always.
I never got cast as a Boulder.
I was going to say, I was always like,
You would have
Blockhead,
been
but
a
not Boulder.
natural as a boulder. I believe you could be a boulder. I trust that you could be a boulder.
Pretty sure this is a fat
that
joke.
joke.
No, I'm saying you don't have any personality and you'd be a good boulder. Why is everything about weight with him?
I don't know, Mount Fuji, why don't you say?
Well, but see, it's the thing about boulders
call
and
him
trees.
I was trying to say, why don't
And
you
why
rebut-
did you just spit on me, Muttley?
They just have
Technically, it's
enough
not
boulders and trees for whoever wants to be in the show. That's the only reason they're out
Yeah,
there, so
but-
that
yeah,
they can.
there's-
If 30 people want to do the damn,
One of my favorite lines from
we
Love,
got 26
from Love
boulders.
actually is like, I'm the third lobster in the.
There was more than 2 lobsters at the best
Dee Snider had always, grew up wanting to be a Boulder and where I want to rock. So he's
You're
a legend
stretching
now.
it, brother. You're stretching it. All right. So that's how you did. John, how did you do it?
I guess I got started a little later than he did. I guess there was like a drama club in middle school, and one of the many schools.
I don't know.
went
You're
to.
trying to grab my hand, and I'm making very uncomfortable.
Are we interrupting here? Do you all need to take care of your romantic liaison, or?
No, I could touch him in front of anyone. Keep
Okay.
going.
Okay, and then in high school, I was a freshman in high school, and the school had a pretty well developed drama program. There's a school organization called the National Thespian Society, and they had members of that and all that kind of thing. And they did Annie, and I still get cast as old men. I always have been cast as old men. I played one of the president's cabinet in Annie, and I did a show there, and then I went to another high school and got involved in a drama club there, and then I finally moved back to Kentucky. I was at Woodford County and was involved with a play there. After that, I did a couple of community theater shows at Woodford County over there, and they have a fantastic theater area. The second show I was in was Music Man. His wife was in that same show. And then I went to EKU, did a show there, and then I didn't do anything for like 10 years. And then I got back into it in 2009, and I'm 2-3 shows a year ever since.
So you were out for 10 years? Was that
At
during
least.
your 40s or 50s?
Yes. No. Yeah. Actually, honestly, it was during my late 20s and 30s. Well, I'd gotten married and I was trying to work life out a little bit and everything else. And
Yeah.
I live in Harrodsburg now, and we'd gone to eat after church one Sunday, and there's a Mexican restaurant there in town on Main Street, and the community theater was right next to it. So I saw they had auditions up, and I looked at my wife and said, I got to try it again. And then I walked in and I got a part, and
The rest is history.
Yep.
So you've been doing it since 2000. So 9 years.
Yeah, 9 years now.
Yeah. So.
and I've had some great opportunities. So I love it.
So when did you make the decision to transition to adult films?
I'm gl-
I
oh.
didn't-
I thought he was going to say.
I thought you were going to say something else.
I got
Either.
that.
Well, I had a talk with my priest.
I thought you were going to go.
Sorry.
I thought that was
I
going to
thought
be
you
a
were going to
different
go. I thought you were going Chaz Bono on us.
Why would you automatically assume that's the way? There's tons
Well,
of transitions. You
And,
all understand.
and by the way, we're giving them a hard time because we actually are friends with them. I'm kind of curious though. Did you have stage fright? Because Bob, you said you didn't have stage fright.
I've never really been nervous.
I don't usually get nervous either.
Oh, you put me on the stage, I'll do it.
The other two boneheads
No.
are hilarious, but both suffer from stage fright, to say the least.
I suffer now. Let's not.
I'd say
explain
I
that.
suffer from straight stage piss your pants.
Which we need to talk about because you got to get better diapers. The other part about it is that it's not just stage fright. There's tons of frights I have, so I'm equal.
Well, I mean, there's a certain probably. And John, do you have stage fright?
Not really. I don't mind being in front of a group of people. That's not bothering me. Now, I may get nervous because I'm thinking, what in the God's name am I supposed to say next? You kind of get those temporary blanks or something like that on stage, or there's a distraction, or someone else has dropped a line and you're trying to figure out how to move along. But actual being in front of people doesn't bother me at all.
Yeah, it doesn't bother me, but there's a certain. Even though I tell people that, I still have a certain amount, but I don't act. But there's still. I just put it down, a certain amount of apprehension. There's nothing like that, just a little bit of nothing.
No, it's weird. It's never been there. That's the thing. I have that through day-to-day shit. It's all the
Oh, you mean
theater
live.
and the directing and acting that kind of helps with that in a regular setting.
So that's your stress relief being on stage.
Well, it is, and it's just I've just always felt like I belonged. Doing it felt natural. I mean, there's various times where I've gotten burned out on it for whatever reason, but it's the only thing I ever did that just felt like I just kind of. And see, I hate to say this because it sounds conceited, and I don't mean it this way because I may not know what I'm doing.
I don't know
But
realize whose basement you're in.
Right, exactly. But
There's
the
enough
feeling.
egotistical bastards down here to go around. You're good.
It's the only thing where from the start I was like, I kind of know how to do this.
Yeah.
That's what I mean. I kind of know how to do this.
Okay.
And I mean, well, my mom taught me, and dad too, taught me to read at a really young age, and I really enjoyed it, which I think ended up being a good thing in a lot of ways through school because I could memorize a lot of shit, so it helped with school assignments too.
Yeah.
And I really liked to read, and I had an interest in language and in how people talked. So I think a lot of things that I was interested in ended up being useful for conveying something as a presentation or a performance.
Right.
You know, so I mean,
Right.
it all, and so because of that, and I guess I just knew instinctually, nobody out there, especially if you're 4 or 5 or 6 or 7 years old or 10 years old, most of the people out there aren't, God, I hope they fuck up. Because that everybody's uncomfortable when that happens, you know?
Yeah.
So, I mean, I was like, they want to have a good time. I just have to do okay.
Yeah.
It's not like-
Especially when I'm 9 or 10. I just got to do okay and they're going to love it.
I've heard this
And I
from-
know what I'm supposed to do.
I've heard this from comedians too, but that you know, everybody, you go to a play, you don't want it to screw up. You go to a rock concert, you don't want it to go screw up. You go to see an open night with comedians,
You want to see?
you want to see them. They are waiting to ravage you.
That's my exception. I mean, I've never really done it unless, like, I've kind of riffed while it's been some other kind of thing going on. It's not me coming out, hey, I just flew in, arms are tired shit, set up. Man, I've never done that, and it's kind of a bucket list, but I don't know. That would be that because of that, you know, and they're looking for that. I'd probably go out, say the one dirty joke that I came up with that I think is pretty funny, and then hopefully they laugh, and I'm just end it right there and leave on it.
We're good.
I know. Yeah, we're good. Thank you. Good night.
Play
the music.
Roll off, Elvis. But you acted professionally for a while. You went and chased the dream, right? You were in New York for I'm sorry. You want to talk about that really quick?
I ended up majoring in theater in college. Yeah, I mean, I worked on it a lot after that first thing, and I ended up majoring in it after a year in college because of legal problems and a deal with my dad and stuff like that. And
well, I didn't mean to go into
so
all
I ended
that.
up. No, it's all fun.
Don't
It's all
tell
fun
me,
stuff.
tell me,
This is the
tell me,
best
tell me.
reason to do theater is because of the stories.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
No, so after I graduated, I moved down to Atlanta because some friends of mine were there doing stuff, and well, one of them was an actress, and she said it's a good way to get your feet kind of wet. And I remember my dad asked me about a week after graduation, so what are you doing next? I'm thinking going to Atlanta. Why? You know, acting, theater. Well, why not New York? Well, I got friends in Atlanta.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's a place to get your feet wet. Why not New York? Shit, Dad, you know me. I'll be dead quick. You know, let me test the waters first,
right.
where I know people, not New York City. And so yeah, I did some workshops and some acting and a lot of auditioning. Worked with children's theater that performed around Atlanta. Did some other things, an independent film and some other stuff. And it got to a point where there was an agent in New York that said, if you move up here, we'll represent you. Which I guess is not bad to be able to go there with that representation. But at that point, I'd also applied to go back to grad school because I kind of got to the point where I hated everything about it. I hated performing too, and it was like, well, why the fuck are people pretending? Why do they do this? You know, and I mean, it's a rough, brutal thing. It is show business. The business side's important. I don't think I was completely naive because I don't think I never felt like I was good at the business part or the audition part, and that kind of all reinforced it. I mean, I did some things, but it was getting to the point where it's like, I don't care if I get it or not, you know? I mean, I did an audition once just for the agency called me up and said, you want to do the cop or the carjacker? I'm like, you've seen my headshot recently, right? You know my hair is he a detective? No, be cop. I should probably be the carjacker.
Yeah.
So I go in and then, you know, it's my turn to read, and I go in and I do my bit. And I'm going through that low, slow burn kind of thing, get the fuck out of, you know, kind of car thing. And the casting director comes over and, you know, she says, try it again, be louder, you know, be more aggressive and vocal with it. So I tried, and it just wasn't enough, you know. And she comes back home and says, really, trust. And I mean, for them to give you a third try at it means they want to see something, because they see a lot of people, they want to be done. You know, they're not going to screw around. And she shows me, you know, I want it like this. And she really scared the shit out of me. And I kind of laughed when she was done. I told her, I said, you should do it. That was great. And I meant it. And she was kind of pissed. And I think I got a third try at it. But I walked out of it like, I can't. This is for a little one-line thing. And it's... So, you know, I decided that I'm probably better off doing it when I want to, in things that I want to do, if I get back into it all. So, you know, that's what, yeah. So there was, and I still do stuff professionally now, and that's the thing about it. You can get,
Yeah.
you know, those
I've seen
opportunities.
some of your commercials.
Yeah.
Yeah. John, why didn't you go do it? Why didn't you go chase the dream? I mean, not that you're not chasing the dream.
I didn't major in theater or anything like that. It was something that, I guess I wasn't as adventurous. I moved around a lot and things like that when I was a kid, and I wasn't interested necessarily in traveling to a big city and taking a shot. And I don't have the educational side. Because a lot of people think a theater degree, and this is a great story. My niece initially wanted to major in theater at Western. Well, she just wanted to be on stage. She didn't know about the fact that you're going to have to learn how to do costumes and do makeup and build sets and all that other stuff, and that got her to change pretty quick her major. So, I didn't have all that experience, but I'd gotten married, and I was 26, I guess, and I wasn't ready to go chasing the world. I wanted to lay down for a while and set some roots down, but. It's something I'd always kind of thought about. I had a good friend of mine who passed away this year, and he did some serious repertory theater. He was at the Lost Colony show in North Carolina. He worked, and he told me some of the people he worked with. He said Andy Griffith threw the cast party at the end of the season for the show in North Carolina. Mm-hmm. He said he'd worked with Gregory Hines. Mm-hmm. There was an older actress named Martha Ray, who was around in the 40s, another one named Colleen Dewhurst. He'd rattle off on these, and I always thought that was pretty neat. But I also know he lived on the road. He'd travel around from area to area and kind of lived out of his pickup truck for the most part. So, and I didn't want to do that. And I'm sure you saw a lot of people just kind of living on the road when they were trying to make it.
Well, you're always looking for the next job. You're never not looking for a job, I mean, especially if you're doing theater work. But even in any kind of entertainment industry, I mean, if you've got a TV series, well, you're on the clock. And you got to do things at other times, and so I mean that can be an exhausting part of it. And yeah, it is transient. I realized that maybe I wanted a little bit more stability than I thought I did growing up. There was another thing that kind of clued it out for me.
Well, and you hear a lot of famous actors that are on television shows, and the reason they take those shows is because they're tired of being on the road all the time, doing a movie or something like that, where you're gone for 3 months. Then you come back. They have a regular schedule. They can see their kids every day when they get home from work and all that kind of stuff, and that's important. And while I don't have children, it's nice to have a regular schedule to a degree, and I still get to do the theater. And I'm looking at some other things to dabble in that I can do from home. But this community theater that I'm working with right now, the Ragged Edge, is like 2 minutes from my house, so I can go and rehearse.
It's interesting because I probably never watched the show, but John, you've been a great supporter, and I appreciate that. Not that I don't love you, Bob, but
yeah, I'm sorry about that.
That's okay. The reason I brought that up was that we have mainly we never usually have actors or anything on the show. What we usually have,
I put myself in the corner.
Yeah, it's fine. We do production people, directors, production artists, production designers.
Blue collar
artists, a lot of blue collar, and it's the same problem, right? Because that's what they talk about. And a good friend of the show, Mick Strawn, has talked about it before. Is you're always looking for the next gig.
Yeah, you never think this is going to be the big movie that I'm going to talk about in 20 years.
Right.
It's always, this is over. I've got to go.
Andre was talking. He's worked on what is it?
Criminal Minds.
Criminal Minds. He's been on the show. And he's been over the special effects on that for 16, 17 seasons.
17.
Wow.
Yeah. And that's unheard of. It's unheard of. And, but he's talking about now he's a little older. The show's going to wind down eventually, and he wants to go back to it. But it's been great for him because you're always looking for the next gig. And 30 years later, our friend Mick Strawn worked on a lot of the Nightmare on Elm Street films. And it's just now that he's realizing that he's got all this knowledge that people love. He's writing a book. Mm-hmm. But it didn't occur to him. None of these people occurred to them. They're always looking for the next gig. You're the next show, the next show, the next show, the next job because you need to work.
Well, I'm glad you said blue collar too, because that is,
most actors are blue collar.
Well, they are, and that's the thing, the ones that go on and on about their art kind of bother me, because when it comes to like a performance and theater or something, and a live thing that's there and gone. Because even if you record it, it's not the same. It's not the experience, and the next night is not the same as the previous night.
Right.
But it's the people that I think that I like really working with approach it as a craft. So we're crafting something, and we're putting out there, and we're praying to God that people leave there at least feeling like they got more than their money's worth out of it, if nothing else. If they want to get moved, if they do get moved, that's awesome. It's that kind of production.
Right.
If they came to see a farce and laughed their asses off and it was delivered, then that's great. So there is that aspect, and all the time and effort and preparation to go into it to make it look like it's a spontaneous thing that's happening, and then being ready for the shit to go wrong and having to cover, But that's another thing that is another reason I'm not nervous about. I don't fear productions, because just keep going.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's all that matters.
What do you mean by that? And you said you what do you mean just by
if
keep going?
somebody forgets a line, if a guy slices his tendon open and he's able to keep going, he should have stopped. If a door gets stuck and won't open and you got to break it down, then you break it down. I mean, now a lot of times people think about, well, you go up on the line, whatever, fine. And if you're not alone out on stage, somebody help, or you say some shit until it gets on track. Don't let it go quiet. Doesn't matter if the audience knows or not. Because sometimes things happen that aren't a mistake, but it kind of looks like it. He paused there. Did he forget a line, or was he acting? I don't know. But I mean, so keep going, because the thing is, they're going to see something that nobody else saw. They're going to be a little worried if they notice it. They want you to come out of it. They want it to get going in. And if you do get something that ends up being kind of a cool moment where you do have to kick the door in because it's stuck in a previous scene and the sheriff's got to get in and break up a fight, the audience goes nuts. Yeah. Everybody on stage is into it. They got a story that nobody else saw. So even when things go south, keep fucking going. That's just, you know, and the people out there, I mean, are there a handful of people that may be going, yeah, well, screw them. I mean, they're, you know, that's the trolls on Facebook. They're always out there. You just keep going.
Well, and here's the thing about it. You know, you've got a lot of movie posters on your wall. I can watch, well, yeah. Any one of the movies that you watch, you see it a million times, it's always going to be exactly the same.
Yeah. They're all reproductions.
The thing.
Alright, you talk shit about my
Oh, stepped on the blue suede shoes.
What's that line from a Big Jake?
You can, you can call me sir, you can call me father, you can call me... Sorry, Mom. A son of a bitch. But the next one of you that calls me daddy, I'm going to put a bullet through.
The next time you call one of these posters a reproduction.
Oh, I'm sorry. That Raiders of the Ark.
The thing about theater, though, is
it's
a living,
at the McDonald's parking lot.
breathing thing. Because the audience is as much a part of that show or the actors on stage, because they can feed each other energy. And I mean, do you agree with me on that? Yeah. If the audience is crap and it's a snooze fest on a Sunday afternoon, it's tough. But if you get an audience where all the seats are full and they're intent, they're paying attention, they're getting the jokes, they're crying when they're supposed to, etc., then it's a fantastic experience. And each performance is always different, because there might be a slight pause in somewhere where there wasn't before, even if it's just a couple of seconds. One line may be delivered slightly differently. They may change the syntax ever so slightly, but essentially the same meaning. Yeah. All those things go into that.
It's funny that you mentioned that, because I'm thinking about a friend of mine who...
You okay, ma'am? You need a nap?
Sorry, we lost Chad.
Who get her ex?
As soon as James starts talking, it's like oxygen from my brain.
But I have a friend that...
Michael Payton's doing what he's fascinating travel shows. That's an obscure Python joke.
But anyway, talking about going to live theater, and she said one of the most amazing scenes that she remembers, and it's burned into her head, and she saw it when she was relatively young, probably high school, going into college age. But she went to see something... this show that was heavily romantic, we'll say. Mm-hmm. And at one of the peak scenes of romance, there was a storm outside and it knocked out the power. And she said the stage going black, everything going black, and everybody sitting in the room in darkness. She said it only made it that much more intense. Mm-hmm. Because it was what was happening on stage was going to lead to this. And she says that scene replays. It replays in my head, and she goes, it was completely obviously unplanned. They didn't know there was all this power.
It's the coolest shit too. I mean, that's some of the, the when they were doing Summerfest out at the Arboretum, and they may have talked about this because being that close to Central Baptist, having aircraft going overhead during shows, right, happens. Well, it was the year they were doing Lord of the Flies. Well, there was a plane that went overhead. Whatever scene there, and they probably set this up. The directors probably said, okay, look, here's what's happening with planes, guys. Where the fuck are you? You're on an island. Stop whatever the hell you're doing and yell. for them to come and get you. So at every show and that happened. But there's been others where the sun set a certain way, the colors happen. Sometimes it's lightning coming in at a certain point, and that happens in shows when those external events haven't happened and when everything's gone as planned. That's one of the really cool things about it for me, is that it's something that it's not the same show night to night, simply because it's night to night and it's a different audience, and you've got different people in there that it's going to be a different show, and it's going to go away, but 20 years later somebody recalls a moment from it. I mean, to do something where, I mean, you know, it's fun to do and you get something out of it, and I like that idea of it. Maybe people carry this with them, and you don't necessarily, you probably usually don't hear about it more than you would.
This is a question for both of you, because the tradition. Well,
I don't answer simultaneously.
No, take turns. The cliche.
You need to work on your hosting.
The cliche. I'm not talking to you.
Looking at your
poster
reproductions.
horse shit. Bald son of a bitch.
Listen,
The
you're both horrible. Let them
cliche
answer questions.
Is that that television's for writers, filmmaking's for directors, and theater's for actors. I've said that, and I know you've both worked in short films, done commercial. Bob, you've done a lot of voiceover work. You'd like to do a lot of voiceover work, John. Hey, I'll hook you two up. You've done commercials. You've done other things. Where is your favorite place to act? What medium?
I like the stage. Ultimately,
You bastard! You started our
Yes.
short film. How could you say that?
Because he started in our short film. Obviously,
I was drunk. I really was drunk.
One scene, yeah.
Yes.
John, you didn't have to drink the whole glass at once.
The whole
Over
box.
I was
and
saying.
over and over.
We're gonna need to redo that, John. Fill it back up.
There's a take where he drinks a whole glass and he just kept doing it because we didn't get it right.
Oh God.
And it was cheap box wine. I drank like 4 glasses and just shot him, basically.
Excellent. And then
Yeah.
there was the extended bathroom break.
No, we didn't let him go. But so the stage, really?
Yeah, I think so. And my experience is very limited in front of a camera.
That's okay. All jokes aside.
And voiceover. I mean, I'm starting to dabble that a little bit, some audio dramas, but the stage, it's about the energy, and it's more than that for me too, because I like I said, the energy from the audience, but I also like the interaction with the cast members and the members of the crew that are involved in the production. It just, you know, it's a great feeling all the way around for me. And you know what's funny? It's the damnedest thing. I said I'd gotten out of it for several years, and I'd bought Guitar Hero. And we were just follow me for a second. We were playing on the Xbox, and you're sitting there playing along, or PS2, I guess, and it heard the applause. Then it hit me. I missed it. I missed it really bad, that applause. And that's when I started thinking about doing it again, and then I did that audition after walking out of the restaurant.
Should someone tell Grandpa those people aren't really in the box?
Yeah.
I didn't know we were going to do old jokes. Sorry.
No, you're the only one Oh no, I did the first
You
old
started
joke.
it.
Yeah, that's right.
Once again,
son of a bitch!
Once again,
Son
you're
of a bitch,
both
dumb bastard.
Gene Wilder.
I'm going to tell your
Never
grandfather!
forget.
He's no John Lovitz.
What about you, Bob?
Who is?
Yeah, nobody.
I mean, I've done a lot more stage work than others. They are very different. I mean, you know, if you're doing a show on stage, you're going start to finish, from start to finish. You're performing it in real time, even if the action isn't taking place in real time. You have to be so much more spatially aware of stuff, and you have to be aware of the audience without being aware, and you have to have everything down so much though, so that if something goes south, if somebody slips up or switches up a little bit, you are able to respond without a hitch. And all of that is very exciting and intense, and it flows into itself. And that's what I did, and that's play pretend like we do growing up. If we're taking our superheroes out in the snow and raising hell and coming back and writing a comic book down about that adventure that we just created.
When they're growing up.
It's
Hey, you live your life, I'll live mine.
Yeah.
now commercial voiceover work, stuff like that, go in for 2 hours and get a couple $100 oh God, I mean, that's a really nice thing. If and that element is a good thing too, because a lot of the theater isn't going to pay much, if at all, especially in certain places more so than others. Film and video and TV shows, it's interesting, that quote. I've always heard that, but I never really kind of grasped fully what it meant. It seems like the lines are a little bit blurred more now about which one is which medium.
I think so too.
But the thing about working as an actor in it is that a lot of times you're going out of order, and you have a lot of breaks, and the focus is controlled. You're looking at the screen. On stage, you can look anywhere at any time. Well, you kind of got to be aware of how you are in relation to the audience, the distance they are, what they can see when you're trying to keep focus in a certain area and not pull it away from others. You have more control on that at video, but you also have, the smallest little tick, comes across, and you get used on stage, even in close places where you can be intimate. You're still doing stuff that it's not going to necessarily play on video, and you get used to that transition.
Different, right?
That part never has felt natural to me, and I've struggled with a lot more, and I've hardly ever, maybe just some recent things where I've watched and realized, oh shit, that's still too much, and oh my God, you feel like you're being natural, but it's not coming across that way. And that's the weird thing for me and the difficult thing, and the stage part is always another area where it feels more natural. But I do like, you're in it with everybody, you're working intently on it for a while.
You saying the energy and
energy,
you keep going.
the feedback, and but also the ability to not give in to what the audience is doing, because sometimes a quiet audience is not an audience that's not into it, even if it's a comedy. And you get these weird things. It's dangerous to talk about the audience because everybody's different. And if at least 3 or 4 people don't walk out of any given show not all that satisfied with it, I'm a little skeptical, just because.
Right.
Yeah, you're not making...
For whatever reason, and you hear some of the weirdest reasons when you work in it long enough in ways where you hear the feedback from people that just go to see stuff to see it for whatever reason they have,
Mm-hmm.
It's not always for the importance it is to us that people are going out to see it. But, shit, I kind of lost my thread. But,
Well, you had me enthralled. So.
what was...
That didn't take much.
What was...
Hey!
Go back to sleep, man, Mom.
I don't want to hear anything when you would sit here for a whole episode and yawn entirely.
Were you talking?
Yes.
Well, I like what you... I
Ta-da!
like what you said about having to be kind of hyper aware of everything that's on stage, and you react because mistakes do happen. Sometimes they're minor, sometimes they're kind of big, and you have to be able to kind of think on your feet, as it were. And one of the things that I've got ADHD, and honestly, sometimes it takes all my focus to make sure that you're in touch with everything that's going on, and you know where all the other actors are on stage, and you have to know the cues that are going on around you, when those are going on. And sometimes they miss a cue. Maybe they're off by a minute because they got stuck in the bathroom, and you got to carry it over for just a little bit longer, So, all those things you have to be aware of, and that's fun. To me, that's fun.
About how they got stuck in the bathroom?
ADHD.
What are we talking about?
Because it explains a shit ton of things that
Y'all go play video games?
years ago.
I do actually have a question about that then, and I asked
What about being
this.
stuck in the bathroom?
Travel program?
No, I have several.
Why is nobody asking a bathroom question?
Because
you're the
nobody
only
gives a
one.
shit.
They leave one though.
You don't take a shit, you leave a shit. George
Anyway.
Carlin.
Leroy Jones wrote The Toilet. You could read that. It's a quote. I swear to God. It's a good one.
Yeah.
But I think
The
about
pyramid.
this because my experience with theater has been doing the English education program where they used to require me to take 3 theater classes because they assume, hey, you're teaching high school English, you're going to teach theater too.
Yeah.
But the other part about that is now my daughter, who is 8, has decided that's what she wants to do. And from birth, she has automatically gravitated. Like, we took her to see movies. She would run down to the front of the theater while the credits were playing and jump around and dance around and stuff like that. And now she's done dance. She's done a couple...
She did it at Kroger, too, but in Lake City.
She's done a couple theater things.
Yeah.
Ketchup aisle.
How do you transition that?
Really,
And
a
that's,
whole-
I'm asking this actually, like I said, this is self-serving. How do I connect her to something that's going to actually direct her in a positive way?
Well,
He's asking for a friend.
I'm self-serving. I said I was self-serving.
no, I think that's great because the thing is you get so much out of doing this kind of stuff. I mean, me learning to read at an early age and my parents nurturing the interest in theater, I'm not going to go so far as to say it saved me necessarily, but I mean, in a lot of ways, I think it did. It gave me the ability to function in places that I really did not feel like I could function in. Like, any place in public with people I didn't know, or a classroom, or shit like that. And I've done things because I like them. I gravitated towards it because it's something that I felt like if nobody else likes it, but I get to keep doing it, so I guess something goes right. But if nobody else likes it, I am pulled towards it. These opportunities come up that seem like they're going to be fun. I take advantage of them. Many of them led to other things. They've all come together with the degree program I went into for my master's and for what I do now with academic advising. And my involvement in it was one of the things that the guy that interviewed me for the position in the place I'm in now wanted to talk about, Yeah. So it's useful in a lot of practical ways. As far as how to get positive involvement, throw as much shit as you can at it. Go to Lexington Children's Theater, check out Woodford County classes, check out stage right acting, check out individual teachers like Adam Lucky. You could look at things like images. Now you have various costs and things. Where does she go to school? What's involved there? Just try to get involved, but try to talk to people because everybody knows everybody. Represent yourself well, do it well, soak things up, listen and learn. And I mean, some of the best opportunities I've got were because somebody threw my name out there because we worked together somewhere down the line.
Yeah.
And sometimes when I found out who it was that recommended me for something, like, holy shit, what the hell did I do that made Lou throw my name out there? Or was it just the last one that he came up with because everyone said no?
Show business.
You know what I mean?
That is show business.
That's what
It is, and it builds, and you get it's a small
That's
world
how we end
kind
up
of
doing
thing.
moderating and stuff.
And
That's
if
show
you
business.
if you're an ass, sometimes that really does set things off for you. But I mean, that is because some of the experiences aren't going to be good. Right. Some of the things you reach out to won't pan out because everybody's overworked and underpaid, and everybody wants a lot of help. But it's hard to consolidate it and bring it in. Encourage it in as many different ways as you can, including if it's, we've got room back here to put on a fucking show. Let's put on a show. Let's do some things. I took classes in puppetry in the summer. Anytime there was a show on at a school, I did it. And, in 6th or 7th grade, I was in a show at Brea College. In 8th or 9th grade, I was a show at Brea College because an opportunity came up. BCTC, look at the shows they do there because they do big cast shows. Mm-hmm. And it's a community college. The department itself is a little bit smaller. But Tim Davis, who's a great mentor and educator and director and everything else, and really tireless with it, he does big cast shows because he wants people from the town involved too, and he needs them to be involved to help it to grow. So there's these opportunities out there. The thing is, the perseverance, and if you're trying to make your living at it, or if you're trying to just do it around here, you have to keep going, and you have to keep trying, and you have to kind of try to just soak stuff in and learn it, because it can be hard. They always need people. But everybody's so overworked, it's hard to get a hold of somebody and get going at it. And maybe this class wasn't so much fun and so good. All right, great, let's try this over here. You know what I mean? So just throw shit at the wall, spitball it.
And a lot of times you're right, there's not any money to be had. Very little around here. You have to go to a major media market like Chicago or Atlanta to make a lot of money. And there's
or a living.
And he had mentioned Adam Lucky just a moment ago. He's one of the better actors in the region. But I know that he has had a hard time making it, and he's doing other stuff now too. I think he's doing teaching and some other things. But there are a lot of great actors in this area, in the various communities. But like he said, there's just not a lot of money here to do it, and community theaters especially. It's half of their job, if not more, is trying to keep enough money to keep the lights on and
sponsorship.
Everything else.
I was going to say, and not to turn this into an academic conversation, but
he's about to.
I'm going to. Sorry, because I'm fascinated by this. It's funny you mentioned reading at an early age. That's actually why my daughter started reading better. Was she realized she had to read for stage if she wanted to do something.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
The other side of it, though, is talking about this area and stuff like that. I quite frankly, it really struck me that EKU was canceling their theater program.
Yeah.
And so What
Dirty,
effect
dirty
does that
pillow.
have on what you all see?
I'm sorry, we're having a dirty pillow conversation. You keep going with your academics.
You know, I think it's going to hurt the area in a lot of ways because the arts, whenever there are budget issues, the arts, it seems like they always suffer.
Yeah, Mr. Holland's Opus.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's an old story, but you know, the thing
No, it's
is,
true. I think it's one of those things with bullshit. Why are we paying for this? Do we really need
Yeah,
the
no,
arts?
nobody.
but on the other side of that is okay. Then what are we doing all this other stuff for?
Yeah, that's the Churchill thing, right?
Yeah. It's the art. The arts are kind of what keep us coming alive, and that's what keep us sane because it allows us to reflect on our own emotions and our own existence in a cathartic way, and allows us to get it out. I mean, hell, during the Great Depression, a lot of people spent their time, put their dime at the theater to go watch a movie in air conditioning because they had nothing else to go on.
And it was escapism.
And yeah, it was. And you get various forms of escapism, and I think theater can contribute to that. Well, when EKU loses their program,
James has to do a bump in the morning just to get back to normal.
Lots of theater. Lots of escapism.
Bob, you can
Tina.
understand.
Well, when a school like EKU loses their theater, and that's just one of several programs that they lost, they lose an outlet for a lot of people who don't fit in physics, and they don't fit in football, and everything else. They have a need to express themselves and to see that other side of the arts. You know, there are a lot of introverts in theater, and that's their way out.
There
I
is
was
a lot
gonna
of
say,
introverts.
I think that's one of the things that struck me about it too was because theater and band got cut, and I think about I have a cousin who teaches theater at Berea, and one of the comments she always made is she owes it to her elementary school. She gives full credit all the time, much the same way. They put her on a stage, they let her
went and got political.
do a talent show. They let her. No, I just think it's really interesting because I think I always joke the two things I'm good at is education, which never pays, and I write fairly well.
It pays more than your writing.
Well,
Thanks, Joe.
I just want to pays more than Bonehead.
How's that broadcasting degree
But
working?
it's more than Bonehead.
I do want to kind of weigh in on this because I think, I mean, this is all, I agree with everything y'all are saying, and it's, in a way, in ways it's a bad thing, but in a broader sense, trying to take a bigger outlook on it, and the fact that it really seems like there's a whole lot of paradigms that are trying to be shattered, and there's some serious pendulum shifts going on. Well, this is one of those places where maybe there's going to be a pendulum shift in some ways. And I'm not even going to say good or bad because, you know, the outcome of all that is messy shit. But I don't know exactly what year theater started. But I know the next year, the report started up that theater was dying and on its way out. And they haven't fucking stopped.
Yeah.
True.
So this is not a new situation. Like, you're right. The money goes away when it does. Things are going to opportunities for students of certain kinds. But, you know, there's a realization of a need for that, and maybe it becomes something that has a broader kind of take, you know, culturally or as a paradigm or whatever. But I mean, you know what? Keep trying to stop it. It's not going away.
Right.
And all you fuckers that want to take the money away are still looking for it.
Amen.
And you're going to keep looking for it.
Well,
so, you know, I mean, I don't want to celebrate the idea of it, but also y'all can fucking suck it and keep trying because you're going to have to crush the spirit entirely to stop people from telling their fucking stories.
It's all storytelling.
It's all it is.
That's all
It's
it is.
really funny.
Even this is all storytelling. And
You know, it's really,
creatures, humans have told stories on cave
Oh, yeah.
walls. It's
Well,
all stories.
it's really funny.
Reproduction posters were created, storytelling.
You're not going to lay on my dirty pillows.
It's really funny though because you
Taking them away from you.
actually just gave a speech that reminds me of I'm a huge comic book geek. Stan Lee said that, you know, when VHS started, when beta tapes, when you could take movies home and you could pick what you watch, he literally said we had a meeting at Marvel going, well, how much longer are comics going to last? And then the internet came out. Well, now people can look at images online and they can download their comics. Are we going to keep publishing them? And are we going to go out of print? And he goes, literally now people are paying we're making billions on movies, and it's nobody's going to care about comic book characters in 10 years.
Oh.
And he goes, I've heard that since the 70s.
See, well, that's funny. So I can shit on myself real quick too, because after my speech,
That couch
you know,
was a gift.
I'm at. Well, I said on myself. So Brick College.
But
I'm at Brick
yourself was on
College
that couch.
in the '80s.
John,
all right,
that's
and I'm
rubber
going.
down.
I got a classmate in the theater department. We did shows together. We tried to film, a movie, and I was in that. And he loved to write, and that's what he really wanted to do. And horror was what he loved the most. And this was, 87, 88, 89. I'm like, Jeff, man, damn. That genre, it seems like it's kind of getting played out, Jason 97, whatever.
I've heard that
he said,
one too.
it's what I love. And Jeff Reddick kept
I
fucking
knew where
doing
it was
it.
going.
You knew where it was going to go.
Well, let me tell you
Final
about Jeff fucking
Destination
Reddick
comes out.
and Final Destination and his New Line Cinema horse shit. You go tell Jeff Reddick
I'm not
that
gonna
I have
link
met
to
him
this.
more than once, and this asshole will not come on this show or return he'll return Facebook messages of hey and happy birthday, but fuck Bonehead.
Well, he might have if you'd given this speech off camera to me.
Oh,
Actually, we
I'm a huge
occasionally get
fan.
feedback going, you brought me up on the show. So
Yeah.
maybe that's what it takes.
no, yeah, but and Jeff is from Jackson, Kentucky, and you're
Breathitt
right.
County, I think, isn't it?
Yeah, that's where
Yeah.
Jackson is in Breathitt County.
Yeah.
That's funny that you. It's a small
Well,
world.
and I tend to agree
Well,
with you. Arts
After all.
find a way to succeed, and even Shakespeare had to write for somebody because he had to get paid. So he wrote politically advantageous stuff to the people that were in power. We don't always do that, but there are people in the hollers who are playing those fiddles and they're picking those banjos. That's their outlet for music and art and telling stories. I mean, people find a way to express themselves.
They express themselves. Yeah. Sorry.
I mean,
we got on the tangent of Jeff.
One of the reasons the theater stuff is problematic from a program sense and things like that is that it's difficult to monetize it because it's a live thing. You can only get so much of a recording of a live theatrical production, the way it conveys, and that's in some ways that's a good and a bad thing.
Yeah, no,
but-
I think that's the problem. I think you're right. It's money, and how do you make money out of it? But people are going to still do it, even if all right. For example, you both do community theater. How much is it to go to the Ragged Edge? 10, 20 bucks? $10. How many times have I been to a show?
Several times.
Several times. How much do you make in those shows?
I don't make anything.
How much does the theater make in those shows?
A lot
Do
of
they
times.
even make enough to keep the lights on?
Maybe. On a good show, they may make a little profit. Most shows,
They lose money.
They could lose money, yeah.
Yeah.
Or they'll break even.
So they have to do what?
They have to go out and do fundraising.
Fundraising and sponsorship, right?
Mm-hmm.
They'll find a way. Back to what you were saying originally.
Yeah, I mean, and like I said, I'm certainly not praising certain things, but at the same time, things have a tendency to get stagnant in some ways, and I don't know, and it's just the nature of things. It's exciting to me in some ways because the thing is, there's a lot of young people coming up doing shit, figuring out ways to do stuff. They're having to do it anyway. So why not do it in this form as well? Now, I don't want programs to go away for people that want to do it. But at the same time, it's not the only way to do it. It's not the only way to make it happen. But having those opportunities and having them scattered as far and wide, that's the thing. Because then you get places that unlike, like in Richmond where EKU is, or in Berea, which is off 75, a little further back in, smaller places, you want those outlets to reach to every place for people to have a chance. Just kind of explore it because it helps you collaborate. The business itself is messy and nasty at a lot of levels, but a lot of things you end up having to navigate through are, so you learn a lot of things that help you out anyway, and you can entertain some people. At the end of the day, that's a pretty damn cool thing to be able to
It is.
say.
It is. It's good to
Right.
be able to put a smile on somebody's face who's had a crappy day.
Yeah.
Now, that being said, I want to transition really quick because I know we're what?
Transition.
Transition?
Segue?
Yeah. James
Segue.
Bono, go ahead.
Segues. Can we ride on segues?
I was told to be Segway parking here. Anyway, so
There's usually
Sorry.
Segway parking
There's
next
usually
to conventions.
Segway at these X-Men Wolverine convention. So,
Run, rabbit, run.
what is both of you? Each one of you pick one story of the worst thing that happened or the funniest thing that's happened in theater since you've been doing this. Who wants to go first?
Sure. Probably the worst thing, I did a show a few years ago at Woodford Community Theater. It's in Versailles. We were doing a show called Three Musketeers.
Yeah.
And,
Never heard of it.
Yeah.
It's a candy bar. Candy bar.
Oh,
They threw candy at
One
the
of
audience.
the great things about any Three Musketeers show is you're going to have sword fights. There's just no way around it. It's because if you don't have sword fights, you just don't have the Three Musketeers. Well, anyway, so it's...
that's how they get that chocolate nougat.
Exactly. But,
We're assholes.
well,
Sorry,
anyway,
John.
so it's
Come on the show, Jeff Reddick.
yeah.
We'll give you a Three
It's-
Musketeer.
I should have knew it was
Basically-
through Bob.
It's the warm-up night. Usually during the second week of shows, most of the shows around here run 2 weeks. And they have a rehearsal usually the day before the show opens for the second week. Well, anyway, the guys are rehearsing. They're up on a high area, and they're practicing. Well, one guy moved just a little bit the wrong way, and the foil went straight up his nose. It was about that far from his brain. He spent 2 weeks in the hospital and almost killed him. Now he's fine now. But-
Except for he walks around in a circle all day.
Hold on. Every time he puts the microwave on, you know.
This is
Yeah.
his pants and
Well,
forgets who he is.
but now
Old
what?
cousin Eddie.
Now the fact that he survived was something because he could have easily lost an eye. Like I said, it could have gone into his
yeah,
brain,
yeah.
etc. But the other miracle part of that show was they had a guy who learned the lines and he learned the sword fights. He practiced and rehearsed all night, learned the fights, and was able to take over the role the next night without carrying a book on stage.
That was
And
the
that's-
miracle.
No, I actually agree with
is,
that.
the point is, though, he learned everything, choreography, lines, and everything in about 10 hours.
Did they do any kind of brush-up rehearsal with him too? I mean, like they at least show the blocking, or just kind of
Oh, yeah,
write it
yeah,
down and
yeah,
say?
well, he'd been
because that's the
involved
other thing. I mean, if you didn't even do it, and then that's amazing.
Yeah, he was working on the show as kind of almost an extra, as
Okay,
kind of a minor
okay, so
part.
it had some
So he'd
familiarity.
seen it.
Okay,
he was
good,
somewhat
good.
familiar with it. But the point is, he picked up a lead role and finished
No,
the show.
it's still amazing.
So
Yeah,
it
yeah,
wasn't
that
an
makes sense.
understudy.
No, he was not. He was not. He was more of a kind of a secondary part. He was essentially just a soldier, and then he picks it up and runs with it.
Now let's start the conspiracy theory.
And our
that he
director had
planned
actually
the guy
left.
to get
Yeah,
injured.
yeah.
And our director for the show was not even there. He wasn't there for the second week. He'd gone back to Louisiana where he lived because he'd worked at UK before, and that's why they brought him in. Well, we had a stage manager and we had the other actors in the show, and they're the ones that taught him everything. So it was a fantastic, and there were a lot of things about that show that I liked and didn't like, but to me that's probably one of the kind of the worst, best moments I've ever experienced in a theater because they were able to roll it over and keep the show moving, just like you talked about.
So we were doing a one act at Brea College. It was me and Eric Blanton and Josh Bills, I think, and it was Private Wars, I think, is the show. So we're the three guys in some kind of home or asylum or something or other. I can't remember all the details of it. And there were three different spots on stage where scenes happened. So a scene that I was in finished, and I was sitting on stage still because I wasn't in the next scene, but after that one ends, I moved in and was in the next scene. So the director just had me stay out there. So in the scene before me, there's the point where one character stabs a knife on the table in front of the other one, and they were using like a Swiss Army knife kind of thing, which I said from the start, I said, that's a bad idea. I said, it's going to be dull. I said, that's a bad idea. Mm-hmm. And they said it's going to be dull, and so I just gave up. Well, I heard something funny, the performance that night, in the guy's voice. And I thought, oh God, did something happen? Well, they kept going. And I mean, if you all are doing your scene, I'm like here, I froze like this at the end, so I'm just not moving. I'm not sure what's going on. So they get through the scene, they finish up, I move over to the table that they were at before. And the lights come up, and there's a big puddle of blood on the table. And I can see the guys blocking. And this guy, this is important, this is Eric, no new business. He does not do well with new, he does not change shit up. And when he does, it doesn't go well. Whether he sliced through a tendon in his thumb or not. So there's this puddle of blood, and I'm like, okay, shit, that's real. And I'm supposed to fiddle with this radio. I got this monologue that my character, he's trying to fix this radio through the whole damn play. And he gets a little frustrated, and then Eric's character's supposed to come in. So I get to the frustrated part in his queue, and he's not there. And I'm like, all right, we'll keep going. Maybe I don't know, they're wrapping it. I mean, they did that scene. Are we going on? Nobody's told me to stop, so I got to keep going. But I'm out of line, so I can get frustrated real fucking easy, and I get mad at this goddamn fucking thing. And I mean, I ran it even more. I lost my shit. I'm like, God, it's not fucking out here.
Bob,
and I have ran it.
You need your own podcast.
So I'm like, well, I'm gonna say, ladies and gentlemen, this is real blood, and I think we're stopped, and I'm really sorry. And right as I was really about to do that, Eric comes out. No new business Eric comes out on the fucking stage with his hand wrapped, and he's holding like this, and he comes out, and he walks down stage. And I'm out of stuff to say to them, but I say, hey, Gately, or whatever his name was, what's up? What'd you do to your hand? Hey, Gately, what? Is he in shock? So I just went, Gately! And he kind of jerked, and he turned around, and he delivered the line that he should have delivered if he'd come in on time. So we go through, we make it through the whole damn play. And at the end of the play, and he sliced his I think, whichever hand he sliced is his dominant one, because at the end of the play our characters make up and we're supposed to shake hands. And I'm like, don't give me your fucking right hand, Eric. Don't give me your right hand. And he gives me his right hand. I'm like, I gotta shake his hand. So I shake it as light as I can. I mean, as light as I can. He goes, and it's him on stage, and goes to black, lights come up, we bow, and we're gonna take another bow because they're clapping, and I look over and he is just running off to go to the hospital and get stitched up. He had to do therapy. He cut through a tendon, and he finished the damn. This was one act that we're part of a directing class. It's a last assignment thing. So but he said no. We're finishing
Talk about
this
taking
damn
one for the
show.
team.
He did. So that's one of my go-to ones, just because it's.
That's a good one. James ran me over with a truck once.
I did not run you over.
And he didn't do a good enough job.
I did not run. Okay.
Once again,
That's why we rehearse, James. No, that's exactly why we rehearse.
Let me tell this story as it happened. We were filming a thing
I'm not
for
trying to
a
one-up
certain
you, by the way.
office.
that
in
we
the-
used to work
for a certain office
free.
at the University of Kentucky, and they used to ask us to do this intro video for new oncoming staff that was supposed to be funny, lighten the mood, use students, blah, blah, blah. And we were going to do a parody of Iron Man, which means we needed to do a shot where the idea was the student gets hit by the car. So how do we do that? We do it
I
in
want you to think about this, by the way. We were hitting a student with a car.
But how do we do it?
Iron
We do it in reverse, of course. We pull away from him quickly, and then we reverse it. However, the first time I do it, Joe was sitting in the back, camera. He goes, pull away. I pull away. I get out. I'm like, how did that look? You didn't go fast enough. It looks crappy. We can't speed it up that much.
I don't think I've ever said crappy.
No, he said, no, you're going to have to really just floor it.
It doesn't sound like.
Just floor it.
No, you're
so I
more
go
of an
out, I get back we back up, the student's standing there.
Yes.
Student had worked for me for a couple years, and then all of a sudden Joe goes, just literally put your foot all the way down on the gas. And I said, "Are you sure?" Yes, I'll be fine. Put your foot on. I slam the gas. I take off. I probably go about 60 feet. We're at K-Lot, so you know where we are. It's during the summer, so it's empty. I stop, look back, and I go back to look around the back and say, "You got the?" And Joe's not there. And I get out, and the student's standing there. He's running over to Joe, and I walk up, and the first words out of my mouth, "Did you get the shot?"
No, his first words out of his mouth were not, "Did you get the shot?" His first words out of his mouth, "Did you fall off the truck?"
Yeah, did you fall? I'm sorry, you're right. Did you fall? Because that's a true story. Because
Fell off the turnip truck, yeah.
Because he yelled at me saying I needed to just gun it. I did what he requested.
Scar right here.
And what's funny was
Later
Christy,
that night, Christy pulled actual asphalt
Yes.
out of it. And when it happened, I would not have been hurt so bad, but it was my camera.
Yeah.
I was using my own freaking equipment for this shit job, so I didn't want to break it, so I rolled with the camera.
Right. Everything is summed up in the story. Everything about life is summed up in the story.
I couldn't afford to go buy a new one.
and that was it. That's when I learned I can't take direction
Well,
from Joe.
I did a show 3 or 4 years ago, and I'd broken my foot. The show goes on in like February or March. I'd broken my foot in November. So I'm rehearsing with this big bone or cast on my foot and hobbling around trying to figure, okay, it's set in the early 1900s, kind of Victorian era, and I'm trying to figure out how I'm going to do this show in a cast. The director said, well, if you got to do it in the cast, you got to do it. And I was like, no, I ain't doing it in the cast. I'll just put on a shoe and play through it. And they got me kind of a cane to use on stage that looked right. But, there were times I was wondering if I was going to be able to walk out there. But,
you find the energy, right? It's show energy. I've
Yeah.
heard people say that. It's show energy. You can
Absolutely.
be sick and then you just go on and fake it. I
Well, it's
mean, I've
pure
had,
adrenaline.
Honestly.
you know, I've done it moderating. When the time we were at Comic-Con, I was that last 3 hours that Sunday. I know that I had a temperature of 100 and something, but I just kept
Honestly,
going.
sometimes I do better if I'm feeling kind of sick. Now, if you got a tummy ache because you ate the wrong food, that's nothing.
That's something
different. But you know, sometimes because I think when you're a little sick like that and you're fighting, you're hyper focused. So I think sometimes you can kind of turn out something maybe a little better.
No, I was sitting there and just was miserable going, why can't I enjoy that the Emperor of Star Wars is next to me? I'm not enjoying this, even though this should be the
And
greatest.
that's not a good sign.
This is not. Should be the greatest day.
Well,
of
don't
all.
worry. I heard from the audience they didn't enjoy it either.
I got one more short little story. A few years ago, I did a show at the Summerfest. It was Midsummer Night's Dream. Actually, Adam directed that show. And it was after the show was over, and the character I played was one of the mechanicals. It was called Snug the Joiner, and towards the end of the show, I ended up in this big lion.
Is that a porn?
Yes, I ended up in this big lion suit. Okay, so after the show, we're going out for donations with a bucket, walking around, and a little
Definitely
girl.
a porn.
Yeah, that's it. A little girl about this tall looks straight up at me,
That's
and I'm in the lion suit. She's got the biggest grin on her face, and I roar, and she giggles and runs to her mom. That was the best time I had, I think, doing a show.
I worked with a children's theater once in Atlanta, and we would just go around and take the show. Well, one of the shows was on safety, and I was this kid that disobeyed traffic laws on a skateboard, and got kind of sent to this planet that was run by the crash test dummies. And
So
I thought
your friend didn't run you over with a truck.
No, we
Okay,
tried.
okay.
Well, no, I had the van for that company, actually, so I ran other people over. But no, it's cool. The kids are awesome in shows because, I'm getting chased by the crash test dummies. I mean, the big spoiler is they were actually trying to help me out, which we find at the end.
Spoiler alert.
But they're chasing around after me. I'm running away, and at one point in one show, we're at this kid gets up, and he just points at me because I think he decided to side with the crash test dummies. But he pointed at me and said, "Kill him! Kill him! Kill him! Kill him! Kill him!" I mean, he was just so into it. It's the other great thing about kids is they're honest as hell. I mean, if they don't like it, they're gonna let you know. But it's just I mean,
A friend of mine once was in a show several years ago. It was the one I talked about a while ago who just passed away. He said he did a show once, and he's on stage, and his character dies very early in the show, and he has to stay on stage as a corpse the whole time. And during intermission, he didn't move. He stayed up there as a corpse.
Is this
And
Saw the movie? The theater?
No, this is in theater. He said
The musical.
he said a little boy came up there and he knew he was there because he could tell, and he said he wanted to go boo, but that little boy just came up there and got real close and looked at him, staring at him, and it was all he could do to keep a straight face. But yeah, the kids are fantastic.
Well, I know we got to wrap it up. So, I think theater is important. I try to go I have a child now, so it's ruined my theater going. I can't even go see a movie. But how do people get involved?
Quentin, when you watch this at 15, that's
I
right.
was bitching about you, son. And when you have your own, there you go. This is how we go. So how does one get involved?
well, I mean, depending on what age you are, but if you're in school, look at the organizations
Well,
and
let's say
schools and clubs.
Well, we don't have a
But
ton of
if
18-year-olds
you're
watching.
but if
so.
you're not, if you're looking to get involved, contact the theaters. If people on your friends list are involved, then maybe kind of start there. You have to contact theaters and Antagonist Production Studio. If you're in the surrounding area like Ragged Edge, and Leeds and Woodford County. Woodford County has great summer classes for adults as well. I think Stage Right Acting has those. And Stage Right Acting has like improv groups and stuff. Good ways to get started and start meeting people, which is kind of the most important thing.
Networking.
Networking. Email the theaters and say you want to help, but don't be surprised if you gotta email a few more times or go a couple of times. Figure it out, because like I said, there's a lot of places that need help, but there's very few people to organize it. Or sometimes there may not be a production or something, depending on how you're wanting to get involved. But if you can get in and help out in some ways with the production and start to get to know people, that helps a lot. Of course, you can just keep your eye out for auditions and look at them. Now, Facebook sucks for a lot of reasons, but a lot of the theater companies are on there. You find out about audition information from there, and you have a lot of different kinds of things. Those companies that were mentioned on The Verge and Message Theater do things periodically as well, and a lot of the university and college ones will have open auditions for things. So it's really kind of go looking around and kind of persevere with it and try to network.
Well, the other thing too is even if you don't want to be on stage because you're not comfortable with it, most theaters are going to need people to help build sets.
Right.
They need people who can use tools, hammers and nails and screwdrivers and saws and everything else.
I'm out.
They need people. They need people to work sound and lights.
Help with painting.
Help organize.
I'd say my wife has done costumes for some of the children's theaters.
Come up with
Yeah,
costumes. Help come up with props. Finding props can be a torturous activity depending on what you're doing. There are a lot of ways to get involved in theater. If you know how to fundraise and you want to get involved, they would love you in the theater.
They love you in higher ed if you know how to raise money as well.
Well, that too.
It's a creative endeavor, but I like to refer to it as a craft for another reason too, because you do have. There are lots of crafts that are involved. If you have certain kinds of skills, carpentry and electrician, for instance, come to mind, but other kind of hard skill kind of things, there's usually a place for it there. And if you do want to get on stage, but you have these other kinds of skills, that's one of the better ways to get started too, because again, you show up, you work for stuff that's thankless, you will meet people, and your name, you just get a name out there, and that can make it easier when you go and audition, because I've been around for a while. Last 10 auditions I think I've gone to in Lexington, I haven't gotten cast in, so there's never any guarantee.
And you direct.
It's never easy.
Right?
But
you direct a lot of plays.
Well, yeah, I do. So, but, the thing is, don't go to one audition, not get cast, and stop. Because if I am directing a play and there's a lot of time and money involved, and it's not my money that's involved, it's other people's, I'm responsible to that, and I have a lot of people auditioning that I've worked with, I'm less likely to take a chance on a whole bunch of people I don't know. Because one thing can kind of screw it all up. So you do have to work your way in, even in a town like this, where it's not necessarily people making their living. There's still more people that want to do it than there are slots available. So you at any level, perseverance is the single most important thing.
Showing up.
The most talented asshole will eventually get cast less than the person who's solid and reliable and will be there on time, hit their cue, and say their line every damn time.
Yeah.
That's what you're doing wrong.
Well,
Joe.
and I know plenty of people who have ended up doing stage plays because they worked on the facilities for the theater. They were taking care of the building, etc. And then, one day, okay, we need 5 guys here. They don't have to say anything. We're going to put you in a police costume and set you right there. Don't move. You're going to be on for 5 minutes. And then, then you show up and you do that a couple more times, and they say, well, here, you've got some lines. You sound okay. And then you become a reliable guy like he just talked about because he now knows you because he's worked with you before and he trusts you. He's going to give you another shot unless you just really don't fit a particular role.
So it's like everything else in life.
I was gonna say, it's like
perseverance, showing up, doing your job.
Yeah, it really is.
it's like it's anything creative. Well, anything, but also anything creative because I've never met a writer or somebody that wants to write or anything else that doesn't have a shoebox full of rejections. And that's life. And if you want to do that, you take that and you try to learn from it, but you just keep going.
It's a creative endeavor, but if you don't approach it in a practical way, a solid practical way, then it's probably going to be bullshit. It's probably going to be stuff that people aren't necessarily going to want to go and spend their time on. It may also not be the most pleasant experience because anything that you're creating, it's just, you can't just, nobody throws anything together that's a quality thing.
Right.
Sometimes you can have stuff that comes together and works out, but as a practice,
it takes time
day in,
and
day
effort
out.
and preparation.
and so many different people that collaborate on a production is.
So, what? And I hate ending on this, but what projects do you guys have coming up? Do you have anything, Bob?
We're working on the 10-minute play festival at Studio Players.
Okay.
7 plays that we selected out of 300 submissions that'll go on in July.
That's a whole 60 minutes.
We just had 2 nights of readings at Studio Players where the final 15 scripts we did unstaged readings over 2 nights for the directors and other people involved as part of the final selection process. And so another week or so, we'll have the 7 selected, assign them to the directors, and then they'll start working on them, and then they go on July 26th through 29th. Yeah.
Okay. That sounds awesome.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. It is, and the nights. The 2 nights of readings are a blast because a bunch of people don't get to see each other very much. Just come in and have some fun.
Yeah.
And read some shows. But the Playfest is fun too, because you see, I mean, if something is not really all that great to you, it'll be over fairly soon. And you do see a lot of different people that do a lot of work in town.
You know,
You've said that to a lot of girls.
I was gonna say that. That's the way my first marriage ended.
You keep making jokes in your den of lies.
You're never touching my dirty pillows again. John.
Actually,
You
we're
even
in,
brought up. Somebody brought a
yeah,
poster.
I brought it. We're in production right now. It's Joseph and the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat. It's an Andrew Lloyd Webber show. Our director is Dr. Frida Gebert, who does theater or runs the theater program at Boyle County. Well, anyway, we opened 2 weeks from yesterday. So we're really down to the nitty gritty. We're running Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and then a Sunday matinee. It's in Harrodsburg, Kentucky, on Main Street. Anybody who's seeing this within driving distance, please come and see the show. We're running for 2 weekends. It's a fantastic show. We've got a great cast, and it's family friendly.
And then stop and eat at the Fudgery.
Oh yeah, the fudgery. Do you play the Dreamcoat?
No,
Do you play
Joe's not overly
Joseph and the
familiar.
Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat, in case nobody
Who
knows,
plays Joey?
you do actually. It's the story
podcast.
of Joseph from the Old Testament. My character is Jacob.
Jemer Merchman.
Yeah, so there's Joe. Yeah. Well, last night they were going John Jacob Jingleheimer Schmidt, so you know it works.
Joe said the ending on that question. I've got one more that we can end on.
Of course you do.
No, dream project, money not an option. If somebody just said, I want you to do what you would want to do on stage, what project would you want to do?
That's a good question. I'll give him that.
I don't know. That's kind of hard to say, but if I was going to just kind of keep it locally, just because having done a fair amount of work here for a while, I would really like to kind of get a number of different groups together that have some kind of performance art focus, theatrical groups too, but the dance groups, the burlesque dancers also, and the jugglers, the puppeteers, the the ones that dance with the fire and all that shit too. Mecca, places like that. Well, yeah, sure. But I would really, and I want live music as well. I would want to get something that's kind of a well-known kind of story, and then doing it and really taking something that's more from a novel format in a chamber theater kind of style, and bring all this into a kind of a ridiculous, massive, like I said, something recognizable, like Wizard of Oz, James and the Giant Peach, or Animal Farm. I mean, also,
Yeah.
it could be, but keeping novel format that keeps the voice of the narrator involved in it, so it's not necessarily just dialogue, huge shadows, live music, and stuff like that. I'd really like to find the story and the time and be able to pay the people for their amount. I mean, it would be cool to do kind of a festival kind of thing, maybe over a 3 or 4 day weekend. Gives them all opportunities to have workshop slots, performance slots. This performance would be kind of a final culmination of all these people in individual things we somehow found time to sprinkle stuff together. Because we did that. A guy that I went to college with, who just was some of the most inspiration, really kind of opened my eyes to what you could maybe do with theater. Because I'd always done it before because, well, I think I'm okay at it and I like it, so I'm just going to keep doing it. We did that with Wizard of Oz, and we did it with Alice in Wonderland and Through the Looking Glass, in kind of this really cool style that I would want to explore in a grander way. And he has, in some ways, with the work he's done on his own, but also with like Leary Reed's Shadow Company. So that would be something, kind of tell an epic story, bringing in a whole bunch of different types of performance art, I guess. Types of, and then give them an opportunity to showcase themselves too, because around here there's I want to bring the Roller Girls in some way as well too. And maybe what we do is the Warriors. That's the production where it could
Ooh, have a King of Minds
happen.
This
Yes.
will be the second time that this has came up today. I have it for you. Xanadu.
You just ruined it.
I'm not
Nobody
doing
cares
Gene
what you
Kelly's
think.
dancing though. I can't do that.
How about Zardoz? Anybody
do
done
backwards?
Zardoz?
Maybe.
Zardoz.
Maybe.
Xanadu.
Zardoz means I would actually pay at the Zardoz means Xanadu
Zardoz
Hollywood.
means
Get on it.
Xanadu.
I'll show up.
Zarnadu?
Xanadu. What this game?
Okay.
Sorry. Xanadu. John. You
I
wanna
want
do
to get involved
Xanadu.
in this project he's talking about. That would be a blast.
wants to
You
fund
know,
it.
I don't know if I have a dream project. I think sometimes it'd be kind of cool to do St. Crispin's Day speech or something along those lines. But You know, honestly, I tried very hard. A lot of times I do auditions and things like that, and I'm always surprised when they say, John, come and join the show.
Really?
Yeah, I am. And I don't know.
You're a solid actor.
Well, you know, it's like when I auditioned for Midsummer Night's Dream. I'd never auditioned for a Shakespeare or anything like that before. I'd never worked with much of the Lexington folks, and I was shocked when I got a call back. I was so excited. I was like a little kid. And to one extent or another, I get like that. And in a lot of community theaters, they get kind of a stable of actors. I mean, would you kind of agree with that? There's a group of actors that usually you can call on if you need people.
Yeah, in a manner of speaking. I mean, some places try to set themselves more than others, but the thing is, you get people who work with people enough that you have that shorthand. Most of the people aren't doing this full time, but they're putting full-time hours into it. And if I know I got people I can count on that I'm rolling in with, they're the ones I am going to call first. And if they say, yeah, that's why you got to keep trying, and you got to show that you can work and are willing to work in other ways, and you create your opportunities that way. Exactly.
But I always get excited when I get a call to do a show, or you know, and I've done a lot of shows at the Ragged Edge now for several years, and I'm an older guy, and men are usually hard to come by for a lot of shows, at least for us. And so
I've been looking for a good man for years.
Yeah, well, you know,
A man!
he might as well turn around, and he ain't getting me. I belong to you, Joe.
Sweet.
So,
Like I said, two pork
I
chops
get
slapping
excited
together.
anytime I get a role because it's always a brand new experience. You know, I've never really done, I guess, what I would say a bad show. Some are better than others, obviously, but I always try to walk away from a show and learn things from the people that I'm working with, and I enjoy the whole experience. So, you know, every show is a great time for me, and I just enjoy it. And every time I get cast, it's just another great day.
Okay. All right. Well, guys, thank you so much. This has been a great
y'all. This was
episode.
fun.
No, this
Yes,
has
it
really
was.
it's been fascinating, and I'm glad we did it. And I keep looking at Bob's socks.
Now, I got a question. Can we do more of these than you've done Stephen King podcasts?
No, we need to do at least 4 more.
I'm done.
Bob, there's a long joke here, and what it is we spent way too many episodes on Stephen King. We didn't
Yes.
need to, but we did.
Yes, we did.
We're planning another
Well,
one.
have you devoted one episode to his turn on Sons of Anarchy? Because if not, then you have not done enough Stephen King.
Obviously, I have not. We will come back and have Bob on the show to talk just about his turn on Sons of
The
Anarchy.
character's name
I
was
don't-
Richard Bachman.
That's fine.
Yes, it was.
Old man Dick Bachman's boy. All right. Well, thank you so much. This has been Bonehead. Go out and see.
The 10-Minute Play Festival at Studio Players, studioplayers.org.
And
Joseph in the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat at the Ragged Edge Community Theater in Harrodsburg, Kentucky.
And keep watching this show if you like replicas.
Subscribe on iTunes, SoundCloud, and YouTube. Thank you so much.
Support your local theater. If you want more art, you got to support it and keep it going.
And right
Harrison Ford got started as a carpenter.
That's true. So
He
did
sang in
Karen.
that band for years.
So did Karen.
And Three Musketeers suck.
You shut your horse
The
mouth.
candy bar.
The candy bar,
Yeah,
not
they
the
do
not,
suck.
not the
They do
book
suck.
or the play
They're lighter though.
or the Charlie
Okay.
Sheen.
You know who the fuck
fluffy.
goes into chocolate and says, I want the lighter shit?
I'm trying not to die.
Well, you're going to
Captain Nougat.
eventually fail at it.
I know. And now I want to die more.
Bye,
I
everybody.
think you already have. Oh.
Toodles. Do you guys need anything? Coffee, tea, blowjob?
What was that last thing?
You offering?
Tea.
No. Yeah, I'll
Tea.
take some tea.
Get up and make it, you.